If you ask 100 musicians what groove is, you're going to get 100 different answers. Some are going to be based in fact, and some are going to be utter horse. Listen, what I'm about to tell you in this video might also be considered utter horse.
Well, if you can describe it, it ain't funky.
And that's okay, but keep watching. So before we can get into groove, or the idea of groove as it exists in music, I think it's important for us to look at the history or the origin of the word groove. I'm going to use my friend ChatGPT for this. Now, wait a minute. I'm not going to just use ChatGPT by itself. Come on. Listen, the term groove originates from the Middle English groove, or grove, meaning cave or pit, which itself derives from the Old English, whatever that says, signifying trench or furrow. This Old English term is rooted in the Proto-Germanic, whatever that word is, meaning to dig, bury, or scratch. It gets deeper. I want you to notice here that I asked ChatGPT to cite sources. In the 17th century, groove came to denote a long, narrow channel or furrow, especially one made by a tool. This is going to lead us to another place. By the early 20th century, it referred to the spiral cuts in phonograph records. I can read. The figurative sense of being in a routine or rut emerged around 1842. In jazz slang of the 1930s, the phrase "in the groove" described a performance that was first rate or excellent. So where are the sources? This is from citations from Etymology Online. I'm pretty sure that this is powered by Oxford Dictionary. That's a trusted source. Now, we mentioned records, so let's talk about records. Now, I'm just going to take a stab at this, all right? When I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, one of the slangs that we used was tight. If somebody did something that was like really together, or if they had an outfit on or something that was cool, we'd be like, man, that's tight. If there was a car, we'd like, man, that's tight. Now, I don't know. I just picked it up. I was a kid, right? I just picked it up. But now I think that maybe when I think of something tight, I think about something being together, or, composed, or, wrapped up. I'm just guessing. I'm thinking that's where it comes from, right? Let's take the word beat. Now, if you ask particularly a musician,
start with a beat, go like this,
of a certain age, what a beat is, they're going to tell you that a beat is a measurement of musical time, right? Quarter note, whatever. Eighth notes, equals one beat. But, a quarter note is a beat, and we can divide that beat into equal parts. Okay? But if you ask a rapper, particularly from the 90s on, what a beat is, they're going to describe an entire composition that may be drums, vocal, whatever, drums, samples. They're going to describe the entire thing as a beat. Let's take another term. Let's take the term woke. Do not come for me in the comments. Don't come for me in the comments. I don't want to smoke. You don't want to smoke either. And that is not the nature of this channel or the purpose of what we're trying to do here. But when we think about someone being woke, they're awake. And we know that this term, being woke, meant to be awake, or what happens when a person is awake. They are aware. So this term was adopted by a group of people, black people, to describe, hey, be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of people in your sphere. Be aware of your interactions. Now, over time, this term, as we know, controversial or not, we know that this term has been adopted by other groups, and it's been, sort of bastardized in a lot of ways, but nothing changes the fact that this comes from being awake. When we are awake, 9 out of 10 times, I would think that we are aware, right? So can we agree on that? Let's agree. I think we can agree on that, right? So I said all that to say that I think when we think about a record, how many grooves does a record have? Typically a record, and I'm no expert on vinyl records, and I'm not going to insult you by saying that you don't know. We all know what a record is. Even you young folks, you know what a record is, right? Looks like there's a lot of grooves on that record. It's typically, from what I know of vinyl records, there's one continuous groove that spirals around the entire record. And this is just my guess, is that what happens when when a needle is not in the groove? Well, the record skips. Doesn't sound great. It's not enjoyable. Yada yada yada. If there's dirt in the recording in the grooves, once it gets dirty and these microscopic things get in there, starts to crackle. Well, I love that sound. But you know what I'm saying. So my guess is that that's where that may have originated. If you know the answer to that question, put it in the comments below. I don't know everything. I don't profess to. I'm giving a wild guess right there. But I'm just looking at the history of the word and how we may have gotten to this point. Now, here's my opinion on groove. I think that most, if not all, music has groove. Even music that you or I may not necessarily, respond to, or whatever, even music that is not created by people of the African diaspora, or music that is created by people who are inspired by the African diaspora. I'm talking about groove exists in things other than funk music. So to get into that, we need to maybe explore a little bit more about groove as it relates to music. Once again, we're going back to ChatGPT, and once again, I have asked for ChatGPT to cite its sources. In music, groove refers to the compelling rhythmic feel that encourages listeners to move or dance. I'm going to tell you right now, off the bat, I take umbrage with the word compelling. And you'll see why shortly. It's the combined effect of timing, dynamics, and the interplay among instruments, particularly in a band's rhythm section, such as drums, bass, guitar, and keyboards. Now, I do not take umbrage with the combined effect of timing, dynamics, and interplay. I'm cool with that because what that speaks to me is cohesion. Okay, togetherness, bringing us back to that word groove when we're thinking about the groove on a record and everything being together, or the other slang that I was talking about, tight. Stick with me. I'm thinking out loud here. If you got some thoughts, leave them in the comments. Let's go. What is groove in music? All right. Similar, same answer. So I disagree. I disagree with this idea of it just being, well, it says typically associated with genres like funk, R&B, and jazz. Now, elements of groove: rhythm and timing, syncopation, repetition and variation, feel and pocket. I don't think we can talk necessarily about feel and pocket because feel is also so subjective. It's very subjective. What feels good to me may not feel good to you. What we feel, it's like, my feelings. I feel you know what I'm saying, right? So I can't really get on that. I really hang on words like repetition and variation. The reason I do that is when I think about a groove, I don't know, think about a song like Papa Was a Rolling Stone, Brick House, Skin Tight, I don't know, what's that dual? Dun 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 boom bam boom bum bum bum. I don't know any of the words, but you see how I'm like mouthing or mimicking these rhythms, the rhythm of the words. That's what I think about. Repetition and variation is something that I think about. Right? And those are just musical terms. Those are not esoteric terms. Those things happen in most music. Now, when I say that most music has groove, I could think of, anything, any number of any record with, and say, oh, that groove, the groove of blah, 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 blah. And I'm really talking about maybe a pattern, a rhythmic motif or a motif period that I can come back to as a listener. I may not say this, and this is no shade, but I may not say this about Andre 3000's flute record. Are there any things that I can hum or repeat or anything like that? No. Not that I'm aware of, at least, right? That does not speak to its musical validity. That does not speak to its appeal for some people. Doesn't appeal to me, but that doesn't mean it doesn't appeal to someone else, right? So, and again, feel and pocket. When I think about pocket, I think about pocket in the same way that I think about groove. I think about cohesion. What is a pocket?
Well, if you can describe it, it ain't funky.
You put stuff in your pocket and everything goes in there. So let's say you got, everybody's playing locked in. There's another esoteric term, right? But everybody's playing together. And one person is, Connie can't count.
Sweet, fancy Moses.
Is not playing with you. Well, she's not in the pocket. She's not in the groove, right? Am I tripping? Victor Wooten came out with a DVD a few years ago, and I suggest, even if you're not a bass player, I suggest getting this. Buy the doggone DVD because it's a good thing to have. Don't watch a pirated version on YouTube. Buy the DVD. So Victor Wooten in this DVD called The Groove Workshop, which is absolutely brilliant, he is describing groove in 10 buckets, right? Notes. I got to read this. Notes, phrasing, space, i.e. rest, time and rhythm, because time and rhythm are associated, right? Articulation, dynamics, listening, style and feel, which is still pretty esoteric, tone and technique. All of those things are just like very concrete, with the exception of feel, because feel can be, but let's just say they're all pretty concrete music terms that exist in all genres, right? I think Anthony Wellington said it best in the Groove Workshop. A C major 7 is a C major 7 chord, whether it's in jazz, whether it's in funk, whether it's in rock, whether it's in polka, whether it's in salsa. A C major 7 chord is going to always be and always has been C, E, G, and B. It doesn't matter what else is happening. There are all these different elements that then define it as jazz or funk or rock or blah, 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 whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? So that's the way I think about it. Listen, I am but one man who has a few thoughts and opinions and a YouTube channel. I want to know what you think, and I want you to leave me the comments down below. Am I tripping? Or I don't think I'm tripping. I just, it's just like when I listen to, if I ask somebody about groove and what groove is, sometimes I just want to be like, come on, man, you making that way too complicated.
Well, if you can describe it, it ain't funky.
You know what I'm saying? Like, way too complicated. That's my opinion. But we use the term, and it's okay to use the term. It's also okay to have these esoteric definitions of them. But I want you to let me know in the comments, if you were to explain the concept of groove to somebody like they were a 5-year-old, how would you do it? And I'm not saying how you would do it is right or wrong, but I want to know down below how you might do it. All right? I'll catch you in the next video. Peace. 2 fingers.
Is it that simple?
Pretty much.